Welcome back once again. And for more details, we're very delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Hassan Abou Bakr, is professor at Faculty of Agriculture. Good morning, Dr. Abou Bakr.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure to have you, sir, in the breakfast show. Why is climate action more urgent today to humanity more than any other time before?
Simply because all the reports say that we have witnessed the highest temperature on the planet throughout the last 10 years. Actually, this urgency is not for today. We should have been starting decades before, since the first United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm in 1972. And by the way, this is why the world celebrates the United Nations Environment Day on June 5th, because on June 5th in 1972, it was the first United Nations Summit on environment. Actually, let us remember what the Secretary General of the United Nations said when he said that we turned from global warming to global boiling. That means the climate on this planet has become really very dangerous. Planet Earth, as a life-supporting system, is now in a real danger because of the increasing of planet temperature. And of course, when we talk about climate change, it's not a natural phenomenon. Actually, climate change is a man-made thing. It's not something nature did. Of course, planet Earth historically is known as a rapidly changing planet in its climate. But at least throughout the last 10,000 years, which is known as the Holocene, the planet has witnessed a very stable climate, which enabled humans to build great civilizations. Egyptian civilization is just one example. But since the Industrial Revolution, many changes took place in terms of the climatic change, the increase of the CO2 and the methane concentration in the atmosphere. And these two gases are characterized by their ability to store the heat coming from the sun, so that the planet Earth has become more able to store and to receive much heat coming from the outer space. So yes, there is an urgency, but this urgency is not just for today, is not just for the 5th of June every year. I think every day should be the Earth Day. Every day should be the Environment Day, because we have no alternative. We have only one planet.
Right. Dr. Abou Bakr, that sounds very effective and very constructive at the same time. But then speaking about, if that happens and all those commitments were made and all this was executed, without human beings having that economic greed and burning the forests and burning the trees, and without the carbon emission from industrial countries, and without violating the ecosystem and the biological balance, and eliminating some endangered species over the other, and we all know that pyramid of evolution, without all those violations, without using the poisons everywhere, nothing is going to be affected, and still more climate change is going to be happening, and more challenges and more dangers are going to be posed.
Okay, you are right. So what's the question?
Exactly. So don't you think that we should be addressing the human behavior and harshen laws, restrict laws, effect more harsh laws to be able to enforce commitment over human beings?
That's right.
And policies?
I think what we need is a strong political willingness. Let us take for an example, in the 2015 in the Paris summit on climate change, there was an international commitment to decrease the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. But since that time, we are talking about 11 years now, nothing happened.
Of course.
On the contrary, the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere increased, not decreased, because it seems that there is no political willingness. There is no political commitment. I think world leaders say very beautiful words in the international conferences. But in the reality, to translate these verbal commitments into action, I think there is a big gap between what is told in the conferences and what is happening in the reality. Let us talk about one example. The United States of America represents 5%, only 5% of the world population. But they consume 30% of the global energy, and they produce 30% of the global waste, especially CO2 emissions. That means if we decide to follow the American style of life, we will need 6 planets like planet Earth to live on. This is just one example of.
Can I add a modest addition to what you're saying, is that you can add to that also that President Donald Trump have decided to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, the climate change.
Yes.
And that is also one massive step. And a complete defiance to international community.
Yes, here is a good question actually. What is the message the United States President sent to the world? And the most powerful political and economic force in the whole planet behave like this. So what kind of examples?
So in other words, do you mean to say, so if we're trying to negotiate things or plan for sorting out this issue, which this is a very dangerous issue that is posed before humanity, should we suggest international community probably, and international law action should be urgently taken to ratify new legislations and harshen them, and should be taken seriously with industrial countries?
I totally agree with you. I would like to remind ourselves with what was happening in the 50s and 60s, when what's so-called the third world countries did. They formed حركة عدم الانحياز, the non-alignment movement, to unite the efforts of the newly independent countries in front of the aggressive policies of what's so-called the first world countries. I think now we are witnessing a new kind of colonialism. It's an atmospheric colonialism. And the people of the world should unify their efforts to save their lives, to save this planet, because we have no other plans to go. And I agree with you. With a complicated phenomena like climate change, there are no one reasons, and of course there is no one solution. I would like to say, yes, like you mentioned, we need stronger commitment by the international community. We need to restore the international organization. We need stronger environmental education programs in the schools, in the universities, and in the media to educate people from all segments. I'm talking about children, workers, farmers, politicians, lawmakers. All these people should be educated about environmental challenges. And legislation, laws should be revised. In Egypt, for example, we have a good arsenal of environmental laws, not only the environmental laws of 1994, but we have other laws concerning the protection of Nile waters, the protection of our coasts, our seas. So we have a good arsenal of environmental laws, but unfortunately, the majority of our people do not know anything about these laws, or at least those whose job is to enforce these laws. I'm sorry to say that they know nothing about these laws. I think we do not need to invent new laws, but what we need is to enforce what we have already of environmental laws. On the other hand, today's theme is nature-inspired solutions. So we can achieve economic progress without damaging the environment. We have good heritage, good experiences in city planning. Take a thermometer and go through the new areas of Cairo, the greater Cairo, and measure the temperature of the air.
Right,
Take
right.
the same temperature, thermometer, and go to Khan al-Khalili or Sayyida Zainab, or these traditional areas.
Right.
You will notice the difference. Why?
Of course.
Because how these areas were planned and built,
Right.
what kind of architecture, what are the materials used.
Right.
For example.
Right. Unfortunately, Dr. Hassan Abou Bakr, unfortunately, we ran out of time, but we're really grateful for your valuable input, environmental valuable input that you have added to this topic in the breakfast show. Many thanks to all of you, and have a beautiful day. Dr. Hassan Abou Bakr, Professor at Faculty of Agriculture. And by this, we come to the end of this edition of the breakfast show. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again tomorrow morning, that's a goodbye.